If your enemy is hungry, feed them. And if he is thirsty, give them water to drink. Why sit there until you die? Why would you sit in that situation, knowing very well that this is toxic, this is abusive for me, but you sit there? Why are you sitting there? Greetings and welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back. Now, if you're new to the channel, make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you do not miss when a new video pops up, right? Now, keep in mind, guys, that we are now available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Overcast, as well as on Amazon Music. And you can be sure to follow us on any of those 6 different platforms. Now, also keep in mind, guys, that we are now available on YouTube, and you can find us there at Ashley Jarera, and this is to the podcast team. You can find us as well on YouTube at Ashley Jarera. Now, today, guys, we are going to be talking about don't forget where you come from, right? Now, keep that in mind. Don't forget where you come from, and that is what we're going to be talking about today. Now, for you to find out, should you actually forget where you come from, or should you not forget where you come from? Stick around to find out more. Now, our verse for today comes from the book of 2 Kings chapter 7 verse 8 and 9, right? That's where we're going to get our text of consideration. 2 Kings chapter 7 verse 8 and 9, and it reads as follows. And when the lepers came to the uttermost part of the camp, they went into one tent and did eat and drink, and carried thence silver and gold and raiment, and went and hid it, and came again and entered into another tent, and carried thence also, and went and hid it. Then they said one to another, We do not well. This day is the day of good tidings, and we hold our peace. If we tarry till the morning light, some mischief will come upon us. Now therefore come, that we may go and tell the king's household. Now, as we just read, guys, now the lepers come to a point where they say, you know what, after they'd gathered enough for themselves, after they'd gathered all the things, the raiment, the gold, the silver, and all these things, they now come to a point where they say, you know what we're doing is not good. Let us rather go and tell the others. But how did it get to this point? Now, if you just go a bit back up to at the end of chapter 6 and at the beginning of chapter 7, right, we now realize that the Syrians had now besieged the Israelites, right, in Samaria. And when they besieged them, it says that people started eating each other, people started selling donkeys, people started doing all kinds of mischief, right, just to survive, because there was no food up in the camp. So when now there was no food, people started doing all these crazy things, eating each other. And in some instant, one person then comes to the king and says, you know what, and yesterday, me and this woman agreed that if we eat your child today, tomorrow we are going to eat my child. And guys, these are things that were actually happening, right? So now, as it comes to this point, then the woman says, you know what, I'm not going to sacrifice my child, and ends up hiding their child. Now, when it goes further, now we come to these lepers, and in the Bible, it records that they were sitting at the entering of the gate. And as they are sitting there, they come to a conclusion and they discuss amongst themselves. And they say, you know what, why are we sitting here? If we go inside the city, there is famine and we are going to die. And if we go ahead again also, we are going to meet the Syrians and they are going to slay us. And either way, we are going to die. So if we sit here, we are going to die. If we go further, we are going to die. So then they come up with a conclusion and they say, you know what, either way, now we've just realized that we are going to die. So therefore, let us go further. Let us go into the camp of the Syrians. If they give us food, then we will survive. If they decide to kill us, we are going to die. Either way, even if we stay here, we're going to die. So now when they went, they gathered all these things. And then when they gathered all these things, they now come to a point in verse 8 and 9, as we just read. And they say that when they gathered enough for themselves, then they decided to go back and tell the others. So then what is our message for today? Now, if we come to verse 3 and verse 4 of chapter 7, now these lepers, they come to a point and they say that, why sit here until we die? Right? If we sit here, we are still going to die anyway. So that is lesson number 1, guys. Why are you sitting there until you die, right? Why are you sitting in that toxic relationship until you die? Why are you sitting in that abusive relationship until you die? What are you waiting for, right? Why are you still sitting in that relationship? until you die, and you say, you know what, even if they're abusing me, I'm going to sit here and it's going to be fine one day. But I want to tell you today, why are you sitting there until you die? And it goes further to say that, why are you also sitting in that job until you die? You know, this job is costing you your health. This job is costing you all kinds of problems. And you're just thinking to yourself, I wish I would no longer work here. I wish things would just change. But I want to ask you today, why are you still sitting there, right? Because the lepers there, they come to a point and they say that if we sit, we are going to die. If we decide to go, we are still going to die again, right? But there's still hope. They say that, but there's hope. They say if the Syrians can see us and give us food, that at least that gives us a bit of hope. But if we sit here, there is no hope at all, and we are definitely going to die. So I want to ask you today, things that are costing you your health, things that are causing you your physical, emotional, and spiritual health, you are sitting in those situations, and God is asking you today, why are you still sitting there, right? And if you go further again, guys, why are you sitting and trying to maintain a lifestyle that you cannot afford? Why are you trying to sit there and try and maintain a lifestyle that you yourself clearly know that this lifestyle, I cannot afford it, right? Why? Is it to please other people and to show other people that, you know what, I'm stable, everything of mine is fine. But you know clearly deep down that that lifestyle that you're currently living, right, is not for you. So why sit in that lifestyle, right, trying to pretend to be someone that you're not, right? And keep in mind, if you keep on sitting in that position, you are going to die. How long are you going to suffer? How long are you going to sit in that position, right? And think to yourself, if I can just hold on for another day, they keep on abusing you, but you're thinking to yourself, if you can hold on for another day, things are going to change. But I want to tell you today that if you sit in that position, you are going to die. But in standing up and going, right? In standing up and going, there is hope that you will survive, right? Just like these lepers, they decided that if we stay in this position, we are definitely going to die. It becomes a definite thing. But if we decide to stand up and rise and go towards the Syrians, right, it says that we will survive. And I want to bring to you today that if you remain in that position, you are definitely not going to make it. But if you come to God, if you bring your things to God and you tell him, God, this is my situation, right? And you tell him exactly as it is, your chances of survival have just moved from 0 to 110%, right? So, but if you remain in that situation and you try to figure out everything on your own, keep in mind that you are not going to make it. So stand up and go, for there is hope where you're going. But if you remain in one position, you are going to remain there forever. Now, our topic for today had said that don't forget where you come from. Now, when we look at these lepers, when they now gathered enough, guys, and that is lesson number 2, before you call others to the party, make sure that you have gathered enough for yourself, right? And you see here with these lepers, they now gather enough and they go and hide it and all of that. Then they decide, you know what, let us now go and call the others, right? And as they go and call the others, they remember where they came from. Now, I don't know who I'm speaking to today, right? But remember where you came from. For you to be where you are today, remember there are certain people who sacrificed for you to get to where you are today, right? So do not forget where you come from. Just like these lepers, right? Even though they were outside the gate, guys, even though they were not welcomed inside the gate, they still remembered that there are other people behind, that we left behind, that could do with the blessings that have been bestowed upon us, right? So also you, as you go on about your life, some of us, we have forgotten where we came from. Some of us, we have forgotten the people that sacrificed for us to get to where we are today, right? But the message for today is reminding you that do not forget where you come from. Do not forget where you come from, and keep in mind that, you know, for you to be where you are today, there are certain people who sacrificed. There are certain people who put in work for you to be where you are today. So do not forget where you come from. And that is just the end of our message for today, guys. Keep in mind, don't forget where you come from. Keep in mind that for you to be where you are today, it is not because of your own power, your own might, or your own wisdom, but it is because of God. And keep in mind as well, guys, that why sit there until you die? Why would you sit in that situation knowing very well that this is toxic, this is abusive for me, but you sit there. Why are you sitting there? Right? But keep in mind, in sitting there, your fatality is guaranteed. But in standing up and rising up and going, remember that your survival is just moved from 0% to 110%. Right? Because God is with you. And that is just the end of our message for today. May God bless you. I don't know how far you've gone, but God is saying, come now, let us raise